Hey guys, my name is Bart Komar, and today I'm going to show you how I framed this single pitch roof for my shed with the carport. So it's a little bit different than your typical shed, but this can be applied to many situations like a pergola or a patio or anything else that you want to keep out of the rain. But if you have basic framing skills and a few tools, you can definitely tackle this by yourself. So let me show you guys exactly how I did it, and welcome to the Komar project.
Alright guys, initially when I framed this shed, it was in a completely different location, and my intention was not to have a lean-to roof on it because it had another structure above it acting as the roof. So to make this design work, I need to establish a level top plate line that I can work from. Luckily, I have some really beefy 6x6 corner posts that I can use as a starting point.
So day one, and we're gonna be putting on a roof on this shed, and I'm very excited about it because it's gonna be a single pitch roof, which it's not hard. If you've ever framed anything, you can totally do this. As long as you get your loads right, you shouldn't have any issues. But the first thing that I need to do is remove all of my supports from this shed that I put in while we moved it. So just unscrew it and then level everything out. Let's go.
Because of how things were framed before, the posts and the cross braces sit higher than my walls. So to make sure that I'm level across the top, I used a laser level and made marks on the posts all the way around. Then I can take that reference line up and start cutting everything to the same plane. Once all those 45-degree cross braces were out of the way and not an issue, I nailed two 12-foot long 2x4s to act as a new top ledger to support my roof rafters on the back side of the shed.
All right, so here's the idea. This is going to be my level where the rafters are going to sit. And the joist is a 2x8, so it's 7 1/4. And I'm going to notch this out by 2.5 inches because this altogether here, this lift is 5 inches. So I need another 2.5 or 2 1/4 down. So we're gonna notch this out so that that beam sits right in here. But we have to be careful because we got some nails in here.
Now this is where the continuation of the carport beam will sit. And sure, I could have raised the top plate to accommodate the height, but this way I don't have to do any additional framing, and this only took me a few minutes, and I can start working on the support posts. I drilled a 5/8 inch hole in the concrete to accept a wedge anchor that will hold the galvanized post base. These are super easy to install and will keep the posts off the ground, preventing water from penetrating through the bottom and rotting over time. This post base also has some give from side to side, so if my hole is not exactly where I want it to be, I can shift that base left or right and make sure that my post is in line with the shed.
And this is a anchor for attaching beams onto posts. So this will go right around my post like this, and then I'll be able to screw my beam right into this. My neck is burning. I need a different hat. How's that? It's a new look for me. I like it. All right guys, so for the beams that are gonna be holding my rafters, I'm actually gonna be using regular 2x8s, and I'm gonna sandwich a piece of plywood inside of it. And this is the same technique that's used for headers over doors and windows. And that is gonna give me the most amount of strength that I can get out of a 2x8 over a long span.
Now that the beams are glued and nailed, it's time to hoist them into place. This definitely is a lot easier with 2 people, but since I was working by myself, I created a ladder system with some scrap 2x4s and lifted each end bit by bit until it sat on the post and on the shed.
That is gonna be one hell of a tall roof line.
With the back beam in place, I turn my attention to the front wall, which will be 30 inches higher than the back, giving me almost a 3/12 pitch. And because at this point, the front of the shed was getting really tall, over 10 feet, I decided to put in some windows. I framed a small knee wall, which I can then glue and nail to the 2x8 header constructed the same way as before. This will allow me to make any window adjustments once this wall is in place.
All right, guys, so yesterday I didn't get a chance to sit this wall on top of the shed because I need to continue this going that way so that I can put my rafters on top of it. So basically that beam that's sitting right there is gonna sit right in here and have the entire load carried onto the 6x6 post. So what I need to do now is cut this out, support it from underneath so that my weight is evenly distributed. And then we'll set this thing in place.
Sometimes when building, I forget the simplest things, like a notch so that I can set my beam. And it's very easy to get frustrated and upset with mistakes like that because they do set you back. And I make mistakes all the time. But getting all worked up about something that I can fix is just not worth it. It's easier for my mental health just to stand back, assess the problem, and figure out a solution, which I really needed to do when it came time to setting this wall on top of the shed. With this wall being so heavy, there's no way I could have gotten it up there by myself. So I enlisted the help of Honey Bunny, and with some creativity and some brute strength, we were able to get it set on top of the shed and secured in place. To square the wall up with the shed, I used a scrap 2x4 and secured it temporarily with 3-inch screws on both ends of the wall. Next, I could add the top plate for the side wall, nail it to a support piece, and then I can turn my attention to the front post.
There we go. Perfecto.
Again, this was a little tricky because that's a 12-foot beam. It's going 10 feet up in the air. I don't like ladders, and it's not light. So I had to be really careful getting this thing set in place, but I did one side at a time and was able to get it up there. With the wall and beam in place, I can start working on the side angle wall. It's also going to have windows, but I don't know exactly what size as of now. So I'm just framing 16 on center so that I can move on to the rafters.
All right, guys, it's time to start cutting the rafters for the roof. And there's a formula that you can actually use to figure out your bird's mouth and your heel cuts. But since I'm not very good at math, I'm actually gonna cheat a little bit and just take a 2x4, put it up there, trace all my cuts, and be good. But if you guys are looking for a really good video that describes the whole process, I'm gonna link it down below. But for me, I'm gonna cheat.
I first secured the 2x4 to the side wall where I want the rafter to sit. Then I could trace the outline of the top plate and mark 18 inches out for the soffit overhang. Now, this is just preference. You don't have to go 18 inches out. There's no set rule of what the overhang is. I just thought that with the shed being so tall, it would look really cool with a larger overhang. When cutting rafters, you do not want to overcut the bird's mouth because if a rafter is going to crack, it's going to crack in that spot. So what I did was I just used a circular saw, snuck up to the end of the line, and then finished it off with a handsaw.
Yay. So I just put it up there just to see if it actually fit, and it does. So what I'm going to do is cut about 4 or 5 of them, double check it again, make sure there's nothing funky going on, like a wall leaving by a 1/2 inch or so. This way it'll give me a chance to adjust, and now it's just trace and cut from this point, so it should be fairly easy.
With the rafters in place, I wanted to add additional support to the posts and beams because we live in a windy area. Using 4x4 angle brackets will prevent the roofline moving from side to side, providing lateral stability and to help distribute the load. On the left side of the shed, I do not have an overhang yet, so I'm going to be framing a 8-inch soffit out of 2x6s. It's basically just two outside ledgers cut to the same dimension as the rafters with a 5-inch spacer every 16 inches. It was a little tricky getting it set on the shed, but once I got a couple of screws in, I was able to nail it in place and go back to reinforce all the connections with metal bracing and nails.
All right, guys, so there you go. We got ourselves a roof. Well, it's not fully a roof yet because it doesn't have sheathing. It's not waterproof with metal, but that's gonna be coming up in the next video. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss that one. And if you wanna check out the previous videos from the shed series, I'm gonna link those down below. Thank you so much for joining me on this experience. I'll see you guys next time. Oh, that's hot out here. Oh, I picked a perfect day to do this.